Hey guys, it's Phil coming back at you with another video. Today, I'm back. I'm pumped up. Hopefully everyone's doing well. Practicing self-care, not letting one thought, one situation, one person take them outside of what they know to be true. And I know just in the last time that I uploaded a video, 26 people did just that. They went into the exam, kicked it directly in the chest to get the job done. A lot of people on this list were like, man, should I reschedule my test? I'm really doubting myself. I'm beating up on myself. I'm not getting as many questions right as I want to. And a lot of them just had to double down and do the next right thing and go into the exam to kick it directly in the chest. And the people that passed are as follows: Bruno S., Jamie W., Mackenzie G., Mackenzie M., Tricia F., Debbie M., Maribel U., Brittany B.D., Celicia T., Amelia B., Sarah C., Sharon M., Sean M., Cassandra C., Amber V., Jennifer N., GFS, Julie H., Lou B. Jean L., Brianne G., Renita B., Ute O., Felicia G., Haley T., Caitlin P., and Katie H. And I'm so excited, man, because like I said, so many people on that list were like, man, I'm not even sure if I'm doing the right thing. I'm not even sure if I should keep taking the test. Man, this program told me that I should reschedule. I'm beating up on myself. People around me aren't believing in me. But the biggest thing that you can do for yourself is to believe in yourself and not let one thought, one situation, one person, or anything take you outside of what you know to be true, because you're the only person that knows what you're capable of, and you only know what you're capable of when you go into a situation and you're not sure if you have the right materials, you have what you got inside of you, but you got to take it outside of you and do the next right thing. And if you're like, man, Phil, I want to pass my exam, man, I want to do the next right thing, and the easiest way that you can do that is come to my Sunday study groups from 7 p.m. until whenever they kick us out, p.m. Eastern time. And I say whenever they kick us out because I never end on time. They either are like 3.5, 4 hours, 5 hours, etc. But at the end of them, there are question and answer segments where you can directly interact with me afterwards as well. And the next ones that are coming up are as follows: 626, practice questions. So going over the steps that I find most helpful for people to go into the exam to kick it directly in the chest to get the job done. We'll be going over some myths that people typically have about the exam or what they've been told. We'll go over, in addition to that, multiple different things that you need to consider when you're preparing for doing all of these different things, but also in the exam. How do you prepare for it? Because a lot of times people prepare how to study for the materials, but they don't know how to mobilize it when it comes to the exam. So I'm going to help you get to the right mindset, have everything that you need to go into the exam, kick it directly in the chest to get the job done. But in addition to that, we'll be going over practice questions. And I always say, do not come into the session expecting to get every single question right, because a ton of people come into the sessions and be like, you know what, I'm going to use this session to see if I'm ready for the exam or not. And what oftentimes will happen is that these questions put them through more difficult situations than they've ever been through. They doubt themselves, they beat themselves up, and they try to ask themselves, am I ready for the exam or should I reschedule? But do not come into the session seeing if you're ready or not. Come into the session with an open mind and being ready to prepare yourself, because I would rather have you go through difficult questions in different situations outside of the exam to go into the exam and be unprepared and be like, you know what, I had no idea what was going on in there. And the next one after that is 7.3, Human Developmental Theory. So going over Erickson, PJ, Koberg, going over practice questions related to those. 7.10, Community Intervention. So we'll be going over the multiple different characteristics or things that you can keep in mind when it comes to community organizing. We'll go over the steps of community organizing. We'll go over the different types of advocacy. We'll go over practice questions related to those. 7.17, meds and DSM-5. So we'll be going over the different medications: antidepressants, antipsychotics, anti-anxiety medications, ADHD medications, mood stabilizers, as well as different diagnoses related to those. Not trying to help you memorize, but being able to recognize and apply them as you need them, as you go into the exam to kick it directly in the chest to get the job done, and going over practice questions related to those. 7.24, ethics. So going over the code of ethics, not having you memorize, not having you jump all around, but being able to understand what in the code of ethics can you pull out? What are things that typically trip people up? But in addition to that, when you're inside of an ethics question, not just being like, you know what, this is what I've been told, but being able to utilize the details in the question to get the job done, and then going over questions related to those. In 7.31, going over practice questions, and the practice questions we'll go over in 7.31 are different than the ones then we'll go over during the 626 session, because I want to make sure that people can rep and rock with me as much as they possibly can. And I don't really want people to be like, man, I've seen these questions before, because I don't want you to be able to memorize the answers. I want you to be able to recognize and apply them to go into the exam, to kick a directly in the chest, to get the job done. And again, in that session, we'll be going over different myths that people typically have about the exam. We'll go over the different types of questions that you can see. We'll go over different considerations and breaking down the questions. So the 6-step process that I recommend every single person utilize as they're going into the exam, to kick a directly in the chest, to get the job done. And if you want any information related to those, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. Sending me an email is the easiest way that you can get a hold of me. But in addition to that, if you're like, man, I want more individual help, the individual tutoring sessions are still available. My schedule tends to book out 3 to 4 weeks in advance. So if you're looking for assistance, please reach out before that time, because I do not want you to be like, man, I wanted to get a session with you, but I'm not really sure if I'm able to or not, because I want to make it as stress-free as I possibly can. But if your exam's prior to that and you want to get on my tutoring waiting list, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. But in addition to that, you want any of the previous recordings of the study groups that I've done, you want a previous one-day course, or anything you want to let me know that you passed your exam and have me give you a shout out, then send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. It's the easiest way to get a hold of me, because I want to make sure I help as many people as I possibly can. But sometimes people try to reach me in ways that they are trying to do it the wrong way. So again, my email is berda24@gmail.com. But in addition to that, for those that do not know, Audible's continuing to partner with me on my YouTube videos and my podcast. So if you want to support me as well as support them, go to my Audible affiliate link at www.audibletrial.com/fill-in-the-gaps. Sign up for the 30-day free trial, because the 30-day free trial is the easiest way to be able to rock and rock with me, and it costs you absolutely nothing. And if you're like, man, Phil, what is Audible? Audible is an easy way to get information and become the best possible version of yourself on the go. So if you're busy just like me and you're like, man, I still want to progress, or if you're like me and you can't really learn based on reading because your mind is flying all over the place, Audible is an easy way to be able to get information on the go. So if you want to support me as well as support them, go to my Audible affiliate link at www.audibletrial.com/fill-in-the-gaps. Sign up for the 30-day free trial. The link will be down below in the description, with my individual tutoring calendar, with the Sunday study groups calendar. And from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate every single one of you that reps and rocks with me. If you haven't already, give the video a like down below. It's the easiest way that you can support me as well, because it helps amazing social workers just like you to find my videos as well. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down below, hit the bell notification next to it, because it'll notify you every single time I upload a video. But in addition to that, do me a favor and drop a comment down below, something positive, a goal that you have, or anything, because I don't know about you guys, but when people are commenting down below these things, man, it motivates me, it keeps me going. And down days, it's like, man, I just have to go to the comments and see, man, we're making an impact on people. Man, the Fill in the Gaps community is strong because of you guys. So that's where, drop a comment down below, because it helps more people than you think. But before I let you guys go, something that's been going through my mind and something that's been heavy on my heart is, you have to embrace who you are. You have to really deep down embrace who you are. And don't get that twisted. Don't be like, man, Phil, I do like who I am. Man, I ain't embracing what I am. I know you majority of the times are embracing who you are, but you really got to say, man, do I like who I am today? Do I like where I'm at today? Do I like the things that I'm doing today? Do I like the opportunities that are in front of me today? And if you can say yes to all those questions, good. But if you're like, man, half the time I'm feeling good, man, half the time I'm feeling motivated, man, half the time I like who I am, man, half the time I like the people that are around me, then you got to really ask yourself, is that half really helping you? Or is that half having you be half of the version that you possibly could be when you get into an environment around situations that you actually want to be in? Or if you embrace who you are and say, you know what, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be today, it's going to be a heck of a lot easier for you to embrace it. So if you go into the exam and don't get the result that you want, the exam puts up a fight, and you're like, man, maybe I need to get some more skills, and walk out motivated and pumped up and say, you know what? I'm going to dig deeper into myself. I'm going to dig deeper down and build a base and build a structure. But a lot of times people go into the exam and go, blah, man, I'm a terrible social worker. Man, the ASWB's out to get me. Or man, I hate where I'm at. Or man, I'm a worse social worker. Man, I can't even talk to my friends, or I can't talk to my colleagues. Man, like I'm a less of a social worker. You know what that does to your soul? Do you know what that does to your spirit? Or even if you haven't gone to the exam yet, when you're talking to yourself like, man, maybe I can pass, or like, man, I should be getting more questions right, or man, this person told me I should be doing this, or man, this person told me I should be doing that. All you're telling yourself is like, man, I'm not enough in this situation. And if you're talking to a friend, you're talking to a client, you're talking to anybody, and they told you like, man, I'm not feeling good enough, or man, I'm not enough, you're willing to provide them an entire speech. You're like, you know what? You are a good person. You're doing all the right things. Like, man, you should recognize all these strengths. But when it comes to you, you're looking at the mirror and being like, I don't deserve the same respect as them. And it's like, what are you talking about? How come you don't? That's what I'm saying. You got to embrace who you are today. You got to look at yourself and say, you know what? I'm enough. It doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter what people say. I got to dig deep in myself and say, I deserve to be here. I belong here. I need to be in these situations. I need the things that are forming and morphing to be to who I am today. Because if I don't get the lessons and blessings today, who is not going to get that piece of information in the future? What family member am I not going to be able to help? What coworker or person I want to supervise, or what client am I not going to be able to help? Because you need to almost put yourself on reflection and say, man, I'm saying I'm not enough, but people around me are saying I'm enough. It's an internal problem, not an external problem. And if your exterior is telling you you are enough and you're doing the right things, you got to say, I'm no longer in that mode. I'm no longer the person that it was easier to beat up on than to give myself credit. I'm no longer in that class. I'm no longer in that relationship. I'm no longer on that family member. I'm no longer X and whatever that is. And say, I need to give myself permission to move on. And if you're still in those situations, you got to put an expiration date on them and say, you know what? I've been telling people that this is how I should be treated. I'm telling people this is what I tolerate, but no more. Because in order for you to embrace yourself, in order for you to embrace where you're at, you got to run at your own pace. Because at the core of somebody saying I'm not enough, they're looking at somebody else and being like, man, wonder what that person's doing. Man, wonder what that person's doing. And guess what? They're not even moving in their own race because they're too busy looking around trying to figure out what they should be doing, when all they have to do is move their feet. All they got to really do is, I say, I have to defeat who I once was and be who I am today. But if I don't believe that I am the right person today, I will never get to that person. I will never get to that person, because I am solidifying a position that I am saying that I don't even deserve to be in. So I might as well go back and be who I once was, because I was cooler back then. I was better back then. But we only say that we were cooler and better back then because we're not embracing the lessons and blessings in our lives right now. Because everybody can look back on a memory and say, man, I was better back then. But you were better back then because you were hungrier. You were more focused on who you wanted to be. But if you're where you're at today and you feel accomplished and you're doing all these things and you have accolades you can lay on, you're telling yourself, I already know enough and I already am enough. And that's okay. And you were enough for those situations. But you have to continue building. Because once you stop building, you're going to be solidified. And that doesn't mean that you have to keep doing things to be worth something. But if you're not upgrading, or if you're not sharpening your tools or making sure you're there, show up. Run your pace. It doesn't matter what that other person's doing. It doesn't matter if you're not on the right timeline. Because as long as you stay in line, and as long as you do the things that you want to do, at some capacity, you'll hit it. You'll hit it sometime. And what I'm saying is, it doesn't always feel the way you wanted it to feel, but guess what? When you stop going towards where you want to go and start following somebody else, you will follow that person for the rest of your time, but you will never feel whole. You'll never feel fulfilled. So that's why I always say, don't let one thought, one situation, one person, or anything take you outside of what you know to be true, because you're the only person that knows the truth about where you're going. You're the only person that knows the truth of where you're at. You're the only person that knows the truth of where you've been. But if once you start telling stories about things that didn't occur, or once you start telling stories about yourself to other people that you don't believe, or people start telling stories about you that you don't believe but they're true, you're telling yourself a lie, because it's easier for you to lie down on the ground and not accept where you are than for you to embrace and do exactly what you need to do with and for the situation. And that's what my push is don't let somebody else tell you. Because if your friend is encouraging more than you're encouraging yourself, or if you're encouraging other people more than you're encouraging yourself, my push for you is you got to focus on you today. Because in order for you to embrace yourself, you got to embrace yourself. You got to brace for the war. But if you've not been embracing yourself, but you're embracing somebody else, you're giving them hugs, you're giving them support, what happens to you? You go to the wayside. You lose your strength focusing on somebody else when you need to be focusing on you and what you need to be doing. Because once you take care of yourself, other people will start emulating what they need. And if you don't communicate what you need to somebody else, they can't fulfill that. So that's what the thing is. We hold standards in our mind for other people that we want them to fulfill, but we haven't communicated to them. But we want people to treat us like we would treat them. We want people to be like, you know what? I wish somebody would ask me about my dreams and goals. Because you're always asking somebody else about their dream and goals, but you have to make sure that when you're asking them, it's pure. And not to say you're a bad person, but if you're asking somebody else what they're doing or how they're doing, and it's for the sole fact that you can diminish yourself and focus on their goals and not yours, you got to really put yourself on that mode and say, you know what? I'm not selfish. I'm going to be selfless today. I'm going to focus on me. I'm going to identify where I'm at. I'm going to identify what I need. I'm going to identify what I'm struggling with. And I'm not going to hide from my struggles anymore. Because the only way for somebody to stay in a struggle is to continue to struggle. In order for someone to continue experiencing the same things that they've experienced in the past is by repeating the same behaviors, saying the same things to themselves. And I hear it every single day. Man, Phil, I don't know if I can go on the test. Man, I'm not getting as many questions as I want to write. Man, I'm not doing the right things today. I'm not doing all the things that I thought I would be doing. But they don't forget. They don't forget all the negatives, but they don't remember. They don't remember who they were when they first started. And what I mean by that is if you first started studying and you're like, man, my goal is to be confident. My goal is to get better at doing this. And then you look back and say, you know what? I wasn't even able to break down the questions. Man, I was never able to remember anything. I was never able to even hang in there. I was never even able to sit my butt down and study. But now you're able to get questions right. You're able to break them down. You're able to dedicate time to studying. Well, guess what? You have grown. You've grown. But it's easier for you to say, I'm not growing enough, than for you to dig down and say, I've grown at the pace that I could. I may not be at the pace of somebody else, but guess what? You're not at the same phase as they are either. Because you may outpace them. Because once you do the things that you need to do, or once you focus on yourself, or once you charge yourself up, you may be the source to get yourself to that mode. But if you're focusing on somebody else, you're doing everything for somebody else, you will never recognize where you're at. And what I mean by that, and something that I have, something that I've been reflecting on, is when you pour too much into others and neglect your own needs, you will convince yourself that you're poor. When you are pouring too much into somebody else, you will convince yourself that you're poor. You will convince yourself that you're poor and have nothing to offer. You'll have nothing to offer, but at the end of the day, you've been offering up too much. And because when you're giving away too much, you'll look around and say, man, I ain't got nothing. Because you've given it away. You've given all your blessings and lessons and skills and everything away. So how can your gift make room for you if you've been making room for other people to take your gift? So that's my push. Embrace yourself, run at your own pace, and quit pouring into somebody else's goal more than you're pouring into your own. And what I mean by that is you got to continue doing what you need. I don't care what they need. I don't care what your supervisor needs. I don't care what your friend needs. I don't care what another program said. You need to make sure that you're doing the right things for you. So if you don't learn based on reading, you don't need any more books. You're getting questions wrong, or you're getting too many questions right, and you're not understanding the question, or you think it's too easy? Understand why. Are you memorizing it, or are you understanding it? Or if you're getting questions wrong, don't throw your hands up and be like, man, this sucks. Be like, what do I need today? What is the blessing and the lesson in this thing? How is this question understandable to me? And how can I understand it? Because the only thing that dictates whether I pass or fail is if I go on the exam. I can't tell myself if I'm on pass or fail because I ain't there yet. You can't rate yourself. It's not something that you can rate. Because even before I was recording this video, I'm like, man, you ain't about to say nothing that's helping anybody. Man, you're not showing up being 100%. You got so much going on in your life that you're trying to focus on somebody else. But I had to put myself on punishment and say, man, your first videos, nobody could even see what you were doing. You didn't have faith in yourself. But video isn't for you. This video is for people that are not believing in themselves. And this video is for somebody else that needs something. And when you do videos, it is you pouring back in yourself. Because when you're doing the videos, you're like, man, at least I have a purpose. And my purpose is not to do anything outside of what I know to be true, because what I say is what I believe, and what you believe is what you'll achieve. So that's what I mean, is show up. Showing up is half the battle. But when you show up, you better show up as you. You don't show up as them. You don't show up as me. You show up as you. Because you are enough. You can do everything. You've been doing the right things. You've been reading the right things. You've been doing all of these things right. So show up. Embrace yourself. Run at your own pace. Because the biggest thing is when you're running against yourself, you know what your improvements are. You know what you're shooting for. You don't need to shoot for that person because they didn't go through what you went through. They don't have the same trauma. They don't have the same anxiety. They don't have the same stressors. You know what you're going through. So that's what I'm talking about. You got to embrace yourself and run at your own pace. Don't run at anybody else's anymore. And if you're like, man, Phil, I'm not sure my pace, sit down with yourself and say, what do I need for myself? How's my self-care? How's my self-talk? How's all these different things? Because you need to make sure that yourself is taken care of. You got to picture yourself as if you have children and you care about them. Say, what would I do for my child that I'm not doing for myself? What would I do for my friend that I'm not doing for myself? What would I do for my family that I'm not doing for myself? Keep that in mind as you're doing something. And if you're going to say something negative to yourself, ask yourself, would I say that to somebody I care about? If not, you got to be like, I'm done. I can't talk to myself in that way and think I'm going to succeed. Because the way that you talk, think, and behave is going to dictate where you go. So hopefully that was helpful for somebody. And like I said, I've been going through a lot. I've been going through a ton. As you guys know, since my last video, my aunt passed away. My mom's health is still up and down. But no, as long as you show up, you're halfway there. As long as you can look yourself in the face and say, I'm living the life that I would want to live if I died today, that's enough. And if you haven't heard it, you are enough. You can do this. And if you need somebody to believe in you, know that I'm here. You need anything? Send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. The rest of this video is me talking to people that are struggling to pass their exams. It's me telling a little bit of my story, but it's also having somebody come back and sharing their story about how they went in the exam, kick it directly in the chest to get the job done. Like I said, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate every single one of you guys. Again, give the video a like, leave a comment down below. If you haven't subscribed already, hit the subscribe button down below, hit the bell notification next to it. Hope to see you in Sunday study groups. Hope to see you in individual tutoring. Take care. Be safe. I love every single one of you guys. And peace out, guys. Do you have a trick or easier way to remember disorders? For example, schizotypal, avoidant, etc. When it comes down to diagnosis, this is where I, again, like to manipulate words. So when you're looking at words, making sure you're able to conceptualize them in a way that makes sense to you. So for example, schizotypal, I say key emphasis on typal because they're not a typical person, and their presentation and symptoms that they have make them not a typical person. If you know schizotypal personality disorder, they have ideas of reference, they have magical thinking, they have odd and eccentric behavior, and that's what makes them not a typical person. If you want to have avoidant personality disorder be another example, key emphasis on avoid, they avoid social situations based on the fact that they don't want to be degraded or criticized in any way, shape, or form, which is contrary to its brother, paranoid personality disorder, key emphasis on paranoid, because the person is paranoid based on people being around them or misinterpreting what they say and utilizing it against them in some way, shape, or form. Another disorder could be major depressive disorder and persistent depressive disorder. And an easy way to manipulate those disorders is they're both depressive disorders, and there's two depressive disorders, and the length of time to diagnose them both involve 2. Major, if you think of a major event, is 2 weeks or longer. Why? Because that's the diagnostic time for major depressive disorder. Major is a major event within the person's life. Since there's 2 depressive disorders, it has to have the number 2 within the diagnostic time. So it's 2 weeks or longer. Persistent, on the other hand, it persisted over time. And if we stick with the number 2, it's not 2 weeks or longer. It's not 2 months or longer. It is 2 years or longer. So if something is persistent, it has persisted over
time, versus major depressive disorder, major event, 2 weeks or longer, and persistent, it had persisted over time. Those are easy ways that I would recommend being able to remember disorders within the DSM and allowing for yourself to be able to navigate information in a way that makes sense for you. Because way too often, people will be like, well, this is what this has to look like, or this question didn't have enough criteria, or there wasn't enough X, Y, or Z within this. The length of time was kind of off. And that's why questions don't say, what is this specific disorder? It's, what is the most likely diagnosis? What is the best diagnosis, etc., within the situation? So when it comes to diagnosis, or if it comes down to any content related information, being able to navigate and identify this specific information and mobilize it in a way that makes sense for you is going to be more important than being able to regurgitate, memorize, and be able to navigate that way. I tell people to be able to recognize and apply the information over being able to memorize it. So that's how I would recommend people to be able to do the content related stuff. When identifying questions as recall, reasoning, and application, are there keywords to look for to better understand what type of question it is? I struggle with that. Be careful, be careful, be careful, be careful. This is my biggest recommendation for anybody that are looking for keywords. Just don't do it. And what do I mean by that? They're like, well, I saw this word, or this program said this, or this program said to do that. This piece of information said to do that. Do not jump to conclusions or add details that aren't in the question based on the fact that if you add things into the question or tell the question what the answer is prior to even looking at the answers, or you read the question, come up with the answer, don't see it in the answer choices, you are then going to freak out and then force the answer that you thought it was into one of the answer choices, or pick the answer choice that's closest to what you thought. So do not jump to conclusions. Do not jump and generalize or word associate or anything like that, based on the fact that every question is created equally and deserves the respect to be able to viewed as it being unique. So when it comes down to recall, reasoning, and application, making sure that you understand what each question is saying, interpreting the meaning, and then assigning the type of question that it is. You may not even go that specific and need to be able to label what type of question it is. However, if in doubt, make sure your answer connects back to the entire question rather than generalizing and saying, yup, this has something that could potentially be abused. One of the answer choices that says CPS, book it, Dano, I'm getting out, because you may need to be able to address and assess and gather more information prior to making that child protective services report, or there could be a more imminent or immediate issue that you have to address at that specific time. So again, being careful, being able to exercise and work through a process that consistently works for you rather than against you, or do not jump to the buzzwords, aka keywords that you think that you should be able to recognize because you're not a bee, because you're going to get stung. Be careful. So that's what I would say about that question in particular. I just need help and motivation.
It's me now. It's working.
How's it
I'm good. How are
going?
you?
I'm trying my best. So, what do you feel is having you unmotivate yourself, or what is causing you to be unmotivated? I mean,
So this will be my fourth time taking the exam when I do finally decide to take it again. While my score has increased all three times that I have taken the exam, I just can't seem to get over the 60th hump. So like I'm scoring between like a 64 and a 67. The last time that I took the exam, I scored a 67 and I needed a 99 to pass. So it's evident that I'm knowing the information and that I'm improving with the information. And the content is just, I guess, is just evident that I'm not answering the questions correctly. So, what I have noticed is that, like, when I'm answering the questions, I'm just trying to immediately like answer the questions. The last time that I did take the exam, I was very, 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 very confident going into the exam. I was, focused on the exam. I only took like one break. And then come to the end, I see the big fail across the screen. And I just knew that I had passed the exam because I did study differently that last time. So I was just, just a little confident with just the studying and, just going into the exam with confidence. So I mean, I don't know. I guess the last time too, like it was right in the middle of COVID. So, COVID was just happening. I thought about like taking the exam with a mask on and all of those different types of things. So while I was confident with the exam, it was just like a lot of things that I wasn't used to prior to the other two times. So
And now do you have that experience? Where do you see yourself going?
Um, I don't know. Like, I'm gonna just be honest with you. I don't know. I mean, I really want to, pass this exam, and it's really something that has, been a goal of mine that I've set out for myself, um, for the past 2 years that I've been at this exam. So, I mean, and then prior to taking it the last time, like I quit my job and because there was a lot of stress, like from my job that was saying, oh, take this exam. We need you to pass it. We need you to pass it. So I just decided to like, okay, I'm gonna just quit the exam. I mean, quit my job. So when I quit the job and, was just focusing on studying for the exam, it came out that I did not pass. So I'm just now trying to find motivation and get back into the swing of things.
I think the biggest thing that is going to be a hurdle is convincing yourself that you can walk in and still get the job done.
Mm. I agree.
And a huge thing that I think has to happen prior to you being able to walk in is maybe even have a funeral with that experience that you had.
Mm, mm,
And what I mean by that is a funeral, we go to see the thing or the person, depending on what it is, and then say, yo, here's all the good things that happened. We let go of all the bad things. And that's what you kind of have to do is say, yo, I felt prepared, but then you guys flipped the script on me. I didn't know how to react to this because it's a new experience. But now I have that experience. I'm now better off than I was prior to doing this.
yeah. I mean, I feel like that I've done that in a sense, but like you said, I mean that I guess it does make sense to, kind of sort of just not necessarily forgetting about it, but just knowing that, I have not passed this exam is I guess is what like keeps resonating with me to be, like I guess that's where I'm not finding the motivation because I just keep saying, okay, you did not pass this exam. What can we do differently or how can we, prepare differently? And like every time that I even begin to like study, like I'm studying and then like I don't have the motivation to study, so then I stop studying for a certain amount of time and then I'm like, oh no, get back in it. So it's just like it's so much pressure that's there and it's just like I can't, like I'm in and out, in and out, in and out. So it's frustrating.
What will passing this exam do for you?
It'll just it'll just relieve so much. Like it will relieve so much for me. I mean, what I will say is my answer is definitely different from the first three times that I have passed it. Like if I do decide to take the exam and pass the exam on this fourth time, what I will say is that like I was definitely taking this exam to please other people. And it was more so of like my job and wanting, what I'm saying, like wanting to make them happy, wanting to, wanting them to know that I can do this and it's just like it's just so inevitable for me. But at the same time, I had to realize that I'm not doing it for anyone else. I'm doing it for myself. So understanding that, I think that that's something that will get me over the hurdle once I do pass the exam.
And it's good to hear that transition. And I feel like that's a transition a lot of people get in is, yo, I need to prove to people that I belong to sit at that table or I deserve to sit at that table. When you can build your own table and get the people around you that deserve to be around you, not like you're an undeserving person, but that deserve to be there because they're building you up, They're not pressuring you. They're not trying to drag you anywhere. They're running alongside you, if not providing you that motivation and talking to you in a way that is almost respectful rather than, bro, why isn't this happening? Are you ever going to do this? What's happening here? And you're like, whoa, I deserve to be here by X, Y, and Z. So it's good to hear that you made that transition. However, I think even though you have that intrinsic motivation now, meaning it's coming from within and not extrinsic, meaning this is what's going to get me, as humans, we often need to have that extrinsic motivation, not the affirmation of other people, but a goal set in mind of me passing the exam will allow for me to do this. What is this for you?
I mean, so I guess so. This for me will not only will it relieve like a lot of stress, but like I enjoy this work. Like I enjoy. So my focus is child welfare. So like I enjoy helping young children. I enjoy keeping children safe. Like that's something that I really enjoy, and like I really feel like it is my calling to be a social worker. And as a lot of people have said in the group, have said in the chat, like we we as social workers know that we are called to be social workers. Like can't just anyone say, I want to be a social worker, or this is definitely a calling type of field work, all of that. So to know that this is my calling will help me get through this exam, I believe, the next time and passing this exam. So I just have to find the motivation within that to know that I can do it. I mean, because I don't doubt myself that I can't do it. I just doubt the motivation that I have, if that makes sense.
And what do you want to do in this field? Do you want to open a clinic? Do you want to do work under
Yeah,
a particular
I
agency?
want to open up a group home.
So this exam isn't about you, it's about that group home and what those kids in that group home will need. Because think about it. If you started viewing your exam as a grant or writing to get these kids these resources, how motivated would you be to write that grant?
Very motivated. Very motivated.
You maybe not even sleep. You're going to be like, oh my God, these kids need this. We need to make sure all of these things are happening. So that is what you need to view this exam as is this is the key to the front door to that group home that I want for children that need the resources and are having people in their life telling them that they can't get somewhere or they've been tossed out based on some social identifications or anything like that. That's what this exam is about. It's that key to that front door, not, man, I'm super pumped up and this could happen. If you don't do what you're supposed to do right now, that group home may not be opened and there may not be a kid that could be impacted in a way that needs to be based on you walking into your gift and your calling.
Thank you so much. Like I really needed to hear that. So thank you so much. I mean, while I do believe everything that you're saying, and I've listened to a lot of testimonials today and tonight and this evening, I just know that this is something that I have to work for, and it's not just necessarily working for, like in the sense of you got to do this, Rashay, but more so like working for, like you said, to save a kid's life, because ultimately, like that's what I want to do. I want to make sure that kids in my group home are safe, kids in my group home are getting everything that they need and things of that sort. So I just know that I'm very interested in taking your classes, your individual sessions, so I'll definitely be signing up for those soon. But I just know it's going to take a lot of work, and I just have to be willing to motivate myself to put the work in. So
And one thing is, I can tell you're real hard on yourself. Know that you're going to have off days, prepare for them. And that's where a lot of times people are like, Phil, you're the most motivated and pumped up and energized person I've ever met. Do you sleep? Do you ever like slow down? And there are days that I have off days and don't even think that what I'm doing is impacting anyone. Like there are days where it's like, yo, I don't even want to record a video based on the fact that this isn't the energy my people want. And it's like, once you turn it on and once you know that you're helping someone, it's like, yo, why wouldn't I do what I'm supposed to do? My mindset of where I'm at right now may only last that 10 minutes, but I need to push past that because there are many people that need to hear exactly what I have to say, or the efforts that I'm going to put forth. It may not be 100% of what I would have thought was good, but there are times I put out videos. There are times that I put out podcasts. There are times that I put out questions. And I'm like, yo, these suck. You've fallen off. Like, these aren't even good anymore. And then people are like, yo, this is fire. These are the hardest questions I've ever seen. Or, yo, I needed to hear this information. So preparing for those off days and knowing that if you're hard on yourself, this is going to be a more difficult process, but it's not impossible. And that's where, again, it's like we're our hardest critic. But there are people that are like, yo, this person is dope. So you need to conceptualize yourself based on what other people are viewing you as. Not that you need that their affirmation, but what does a trusted person in your life, key emphasis on a trusted person in your life, have to say about you? Because if somebody outside of you that cares about you, that's why I said a trusted person, you put that trust in the wrong person, they could negatively impact your energy pretty quick. But like an example, one of my very trusted people is my roommate. He's been with me since I was in grad school. So when he's like, yo, you're doing real great and you're putting forth effort, or yo, you're not putting as much energy in, what's going on? He's not trying to drag me down. He's saying, yo, what do you need? Like, what adjustment? So if he's like, yo, you're doing great and you're firing people up and doing all these awesome things, or yo, these are goals you can accomplish, I have to believe it.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Sorry, I just got a little teary eyed, but yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I know without a shadow of doubt that I can do it. But like you said something earlier that kind of like stuck out to me. We're always giving everyone else, our clients and everybody, like the top notch advice, but when it comes to us, like we're just like, oh man, like we're beating ourselves up. And it's just like how can you even attempt to help someone else when you couldn't even help yourself? So that was like a big takeaway from tonight, that I appreciate you for saying it, just giving everyone in this group. And I mean, I really can't speak for everyone, but I definitely can speak for myself to say that, thank you so much, for just the willingness, not even this free group tonight, but just like the willingness to even be willing to put this on and to do all of these things for this, for us. Because I don't know, if it wasn't for you, I definitely wouldn't be where I am right now, and my confidence definitely shot up tonight, so thank you.
And it's my pleasure to be able to help. And this is why I do this. I don't do this for any other reason than reaching out to the people that don't feel that they can do something, get to the next level so that way they can empower somebody else to do it.
Hmm.
It'd be easy for me to be like, yup, only paid things. I'm not going to put anything free out. Everybody else can do this. It's no, this is where you started. Because if you watch the first videos I ever put out, I am the exact same person that I was back then, and saying the not the exact same things, but similar things to back then, based on the fact that when you know who you are and stay consistent and trust the process, things will always work out.
Yeah, I agree.
Because when you have a strong identity of who you are, regardless of the feedback of other people, regardless of what you've been through, or the negativity people have put on you, or the negative situations people have tried dragging into you, or the doubt they've put on you, the pressure they put on you, when you know exactly who you are, those things will fall to the wayside, and they may negatively impact you more days than not. But when you stop valuing what you do to identify your identity, so it's not what you do that makes you who you are, it's who you are while doing it, because character and integrity are way more rare nowadays than they were before.
I agree. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to be able to help, and please, 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 please keep building yourself up.
Yes, thank you. I
It's my
definitely
pleasure to
will.
be able to help. And if you need anything, just let me know. Bill, third time taking the test in December. If I do not pass, I lose my job. How can I manage my test anxiety?
Sure. Hi, Phil. How are you?
I'm doing well. What's up? What's up? What's up?
Nothing. It'd be my third time taking it in December, and if I do not pass, like I said, I am going to lose my job, and that's very stressful because I have two children. I provide the health insurance, I provide the dental insurance. We just bought a house, so there's a lot of pressure. I just don't know how to cope with my anxiety. I'm dealing with my anxiety therapeutically. I do have a therapist to try to do it that route. But just every time I pick up the book, every time I study, I just see fail across the screen. And it's so stressful. I don't know how to cope with it. Even though I teach coping skills, I need to learn how to practice what I preach, I guess.
And when it comes down to it, how much energy, if we had 100% energy, how much energy are you putting in towards failing versus passing?
God, I don't even know. I don't. Maybe I just have too much self doubt.
Well, what I mean is, are you thinking more about you failing than you are of you passing?
Yes, honestly, yes. Yes.
So that's what I mean, the energy wise of 100%. So if we were to like guess, let's say 70% of your energy is going, yup, I'm going to fail this bad thing and I'm going to lose my insurance and things are going to be stressful. And you're putting 30% in saying, yo, I could pass this and everything's going to work out. How likely is that person that's a 70% and 30%? So 70% of you is like, yo, you're going to fail. It's all going to go downhill. And 30% of you is like, yo, you can walk in there, kick it in the chest, get the job done. How likely is that person going to be to walk in and feel confident?
Very little. Very little.
So that would be my shift or recommendation for you would be start putting more energy in the passing. What will it look like when I pass? Like, what situations and opportunities do I want to see?
Okay. Thank you.
And it's not that easy. And I don't mean to be like, yeah, just do this. It's recognizing that those 3 exams are over with. This is the only exam that matters right now.
Yeah.
The only exams that matter.
Yeah.
This one. Because the 3 are in the past. The only one that matters and can lead you to the future is this one. And even though you failed it 3 times, those 3 exams are 3 separate first exam experiences.
Okay.
And why do you think I just said that they're 3 separate first exam experiences?
Because it's 3 different tests, 3 different tries, 3 different mindsets.
Mm-hmm. And this is your first time all over again.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Groundhog's Day. Literally, this is the first time that you've ever touched this exam based on the fact that you've never seen these questions before. And you are the best possible version of yourself right now.
Yes.
Because if we were to talk to the Katie that took it the first time, are you the same person as that person?
Oh God, no! I was terrified.
And what do you mean? Like, what? How terrified were you?
I don't know. It was just it's just scary because knowing that potentially my job is on the line if I don't pass. Because in Massachusetts, you need to be licensed to work for Child Protective Services, and this is my dream. This was my dream job, and I've worked so hard to get where I am today, and to knowing it could go away because each time I've only failed by 2 points. 2. And it's so frustrating. It's unreal.
And that's where you have to remind yourself is I wasn't the person that took it the first time. I wasn't the person that took it the second time. And this is the third time. And I am better than those other 2 versions of myself. And of course, I could think negatively and I can do all these different things. But would a real life example help you?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. So for those that have been repping and rocking with me for a decent amount of time, you probably know that I started doing YouTube videos right after I passed my exam. and I wanted to help people. Didn't get any traction at all. No one watched the videos. I didn't think that it was going to work. And then somebody asked me if I could tutor them in real life, and I helped them pass their exam. That gave me the confidence to then start making more videos. However, for those that know deeply into the story, my goal has been, since I graduated from the University of Michigan, to go back and teach there. However, they have a rule that you have to be out of school for 5 years prior to being able to teach in their school. I don't like being told no, but I'm not stronger than University of Michigan. So in my mind, I was like, I will just keep creating videos. I'll create my own university and everything will be great. Everything will work out. However, even though I've put in like 40 like guest lectures in X amount of time, I've created an entire YouTube channel. I created podcasts, helping people all across the country pass. I've always had this dream to go to U of M and teach. But I kept telling myself, this isn't going to work out. You're not worthy enough. You're not going to get the job done. However, one major event happened in my life. Do you know what that event is?
No.
It was about a year after I created Fill in the Gaps. I got a phone call. I have cancer.
Oh my God.
My mom called me and said, hey, I have cancer. At that moment, nothing else mattered besides being able to show her that when you put hard work in and stay focused and have positivity in your life, nothing can stop you. And that is arguably the moment that I said, I need to do everything that I possibly can to make things happen. So that's why when people are like, man, why do you always talk about like darkness and light and all this stuff? It's, the most detrimental situation that could ever happen in life happened. However, through putting out videos, through people saying, yo, you helped me pass the exam and all these things have turned around and she's in remission. However, I'm telling this story because U of M offered me a position to teach there. So
Congratulations.
So through all my efforts and stuff of me still not feeling like it was going to work out, I never gave up. I never let the situations and being told no and all these negative things drag me down. So do not let the negativity in your life or situation in your life take your vision away from where you know you need to be.
Mhm.
Because you could walk in December and you could fail and you may not be where you want to be for a decent amount of time. However, keeping focused on this exam will lead me to where I need to go eventually, and I will get to where I need to go. It will suck in a decent amount of time, but I will not stop. I will not let anything get into my way because I know where I'm supposed to be. And too many people have sacrificed for me to get here. I've sacrificed too much to get here, and you will get the job done. So that's what I'm talking about is the amount of energy that you put into negativity versus positivity will change your view of your situation.
Okay. I'll be more positive. At least I'll try.
And again, it's not every day that you're going to be like, yeah, but the more days that you're positive, the easier it is for you to give yourself credit for even showing up that day.
Mhm. I just got to keep my kids in my mind. That will push me.
And viewing yourself as one of your children will make it easier as well.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is view yourself as one of your children is getting ready to take a test
Mhm.
and they're wanting to beat up on themselves. What would you say to them?
Oh my God. I'd be like, no, stop it. What are you doing?
And what if they're still beating up on themselves and saying like, I hear you, but all these other things, what would you want? What would you do for them to soothe them?
Oh God. I'm Italian, so I'd feed them first and then I'd sit with them and try to help them study, try to get them to where they want to be.
Those are the things you have to do for yourself in between now and your exam.
Okay.
Feed yourself, sit with yourself, and build yourself up.
I will do that. Thank you, Phil. I appreciate that.
It is my pleasure to be able to help. And if you need anything, just let me know.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep. Take care of yourself, and I'll
You
see
too.
you in the future.
Yes.
Phil, I'm getting back on track after failing the test twice. Need help in refocusing.
Good evening, Phil. This is Charlene.
How's it going? How's it going?
I think I emailed you a couple of times wanting some sense of studying help. But anyway, my story is it's been 3 years. I took the first test, I failed by 6. And within the year, I'm like, okay, you know, I'm like, I'm on it, I can do this. So, you know, 6 months later, before my year had ended, I had retaken the test. But I'm thinking that if I retained all the information in this brain of mine, that I wouldn't have to restudy as much and just do the test and I should be a go. Well, I failed by almost 3 times the number the second time. And just totally, I guess after that, I was tired. I told myself I was done. And I'm like, let me just focus on work. Let me just get, you know, and I'll get back to it when I'm ready. And now I'm like, okay, how long am I going to be before I tell myself that it's time for me to be ready? And I'm like, okay, so that's why I started watching your videos, you know. If I'm sitting at home and I'm cooking something, I'm like, let me go get Phil on because he's going to motivate me, not just to cook, but, you know, to just really think and try to practice what it is that we need to do. And listening to everybody's story, and I'm like, you know what, I need to apply that. I need to step back and I work in a nonprofit agency, and right now it's like I'm overworked and I feel near for burnout, but I still want to pass my test. I will, I keep saying I will make time, but you know, in my day, I'll be lucky if I have 3 hours in a week. That's my week, that's my hours, you know, and I'm exhausted, but I want to still do this. So refocusing on me, I guess is the hardest thing. And my 2 teenagers, I call them my young adults, but they just graduated this past May, but of course, stay-at-home order and everything. My daughter's, you know, going to school at the university that I graduated from, and my son's just doing his thing and his hangout thing. And focusing on trying to keep them happy. And I guess, you know, we accommodate everybody, but I feel like I give out, well, when I go to work, I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyway, that, you know, my people suck the life out of me, Bill. They do, you know, and I'm like, how come I can't do this for myself and I can do it for everybody else? So help me.
So my biggest recommendation, and this is why I always say it's important to surround yourself with successful and positive people. Success is a very subjective phrase. So I don't mean like monetarily successful, but it could be. So my roommate sent me an image just this week, and it said, when you start saying I don't have the time for something, changing it and telling yourself that's not a priority to me at this time, and seeing how it hits. So when you're like, man, I don't have the time for this, if you were to say, me passing the exam isn't a priority for you right now, how would that sound to you?
I did. I put myself on the back burner. I didn't, you know, I am not the important person that I feel like I am. I guess I'm like furniture. That's what it makes me feel like.
And that's where you don't have to feel like that anymore. And the way that you do that is start setting boundaries within your professional and personal life. And what I mean is, if you are walking into work and feeling like people are sucking the energy out of you, you need to make sure that you're staying within your professional role and not overdoing things for clients or over owning what a client is bringing into you at that moment.
Okay. Okay.
And
I
then
hear. Yeah.
and this could be, and this is like a generalization, but making sure you're eating enough when you're at work,
Okay.
making sure you're safeguarding your time at work as well. Like if you have a no-show for a client, for example, taking that time to study could be important. That could buy you time to studying.
Okay. I agree. I agree. I think I'm going to have to just reorganize everything that's going on within everything that I do, and I guess I should be honest, I do take on projects that, that when I am at home, I'm doing, I've got hobbies, I sew, I bead, I cook, of course, be mom, but, a lot of other extra hobbies that I go into for not just, my family, but my friends as well. I sew, so I hem pants, and that's like, I'm like, it's not like every weekend, but every 2 months or something, I'll do something, but it's like, I don't take care of myself. Oh my God, just saying that out loud. I don't do that.
So that's what I mean is
Wow.
somebody once told me this, and I can't remember, or I'll give them credit, is the way that you do one thing is the way that you do everything. So if you find yourself walking into work and doing everyone else's job and going above and beyond, you're doing that for the people in your personal life. And if people aren't allowing to have healthy boundaries and they're like taking more than contributing to you and not having empathy with what you have going on in your situation, you may have to reevaluate that. Because if somebody is like, yo, can you hem these pants? And they know that you're stressed out from work, you need to get studying, you have all these other projects going on. Do they actually care about you in that moment?
Oh my gosh, I allow that to happen to me. I allow that to happen to myself. You know, I need you're right, my boundaries are just not in place. I see that, I needed someone to, we say all these things to our clients about what's going on in their world, but for us to reevaluate what is going on in our world, I think we need to hear it, straight up without no sugarcoating of any kind to put us back into where we need to be and be grounded. Thank you, Phil. Thank you. Wow.
It's my pleasure to be able to help. And a word you're probably going to start flirting with a lot is no. And people aren't going to like it, but that's their prerogative. And you need to stand up for yourself. And if people around you aren't standing up for you or taking you into consideration, you may have to reevaluate that as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Phil. I appreciate it. Thank you. And you will hear from me. Yes.
All right. Awesome. I look forward to working with you in the future.
All right.
All right, awesome. I missed by 1 point in August and taken again December 1st. This is my 4th time.
Hey, Phil. Yeah.
How's it going? How's it going?
It's going all right. Let's see. So I took it the first time and I missed it by 4. Second time missed it by 2. Third time missed by 1. So this will be my 4th time taking it, and it is required for my job. And I do feel a little pressure to pass, but I did take the online exam, the ASWB online practice test, and I passed, and I actually went over the required. So I don't know if it's my anxiety or I'm thinking too much about the pressure, because I feel confident when I take the test, confident in the material. And I think it's just the anxiety and pressure. I don't know if it's my anxiety or it's just me feeling pressured that I got to pass.
Well, let me ask you one question. When you're taking the practice exam, do you have your job on the line?
I put myself in a mindset that it was while I was taking it.
But if you failed the practice exam, is your job like, yup, see you later, pack up?
No, I mean, my boss is pretty much like, no, you got it. You're going to get it next time. I know you got it. And I'm like, okay, I know you're confident. And I know, you're telling me not to worry about it. I got it. But in my mind, I'm like, no, this is still required for my job. Like, I have to pass this.
So I think there's a disconnect because you can't fake situations to make them to be true.
Yeah.
Like I can't fake it tonight. Like, Phil, you're going to be homeless if you don't do this. I'm far away from homelessness.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And that, I think that's where you have to be honest with yourself is I want this. My job's not at stake, but my potential of where I want to be is at stake.
Yeah.
Those are two different scenarios. One is, man, I'm not going to lose my job. So even if I fail, it's not a big deal, but you're losing out on your future potential and all of the opportunities you want. And that's what you have to focus on of not, man, my job is at stake, but my livelihood and life is on the line.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I noticed that when I took the test, the practice exam, and they showed me what I got wrong in the rationale, I was getting upset because the answer that it was what I was debating between. So it's like I can get it down to two choices, but the one that I pick is like, okay, that's the answer. But then I'll go back and read it again. I'm like, well, no, maybe it's the other one. And then when I printed out, where it shows what the correct answer was, I'm like, oh my gosh, I should have stuck with the first one. So that's happening too.
So my biggest push from you from here on out is to throw away the doubt of you failing this exam.
Okay.
And it's not easily done. So don't get that twisted. I didn't just be like, yeah, you're done with being anxious. It's, if I don't have proof of what I'm anxious about happening, I have no ability to be able to make it come true.
Yeah, I understand.
So every time that you want to second guess yourself, you need to check back with the question and get permission. And what I mean by that is oftentimes people are like, man, let me change the answer based on this other question I had or what this source said. No, the only permission slip that can get signed is by the question, because the question is what is going to lead you to the answer, not this other prep program, not this other question, not this negative thought that you have in your head, but legitimately the actual exam and question in front of you.
Right. And I know it's kind of hard for me to stay focused because the past times I took it, I always took a break when I reached 100 questions. That's when I took my break. So now I'm thinking, well, is it when I take my breaks? Maybe I'm, doing too many questions and taking a break. Maybe I should take a, shorter, breaks or multiple breaks, or I'm not sure.
Well, what do you think it is? Because I have a feeling that you need to do the exact same thing and not change anything besides the second guessing, and you're going to blow this whole thing up. The theory stands true still to this second is you failed by less than 10 and you're saying it's something wrong with me rather than the way that you approach the exam.
That's true.
So it's not anything to do with your breaks. It's how you're breaking down the question.
Yeah. And I have trouble with that as well. And when I'm looking for material, I don't know if I know all of the exams are different, but it's hard to find some that's kind of directed towards BSW. So I like with some of the acronyms, I'm like, well, would that go for BSW? Because I know some of our questions are not as detailed or in depth as some like the clinical questions. So sometimes when I'm trying to use the acronyms too, I kind of get confused with my answer choice.
You were close.
Yeah.
So my biggest recommendation is to not ask yourself, what is the gap? But what are the things that I've been doing that are working that I've been telling myself they haven't been working?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing that kind of blew your mind was that you killed the practice exam. You walked into the real exam expecting the same result, and it didn't happen.
Yep. Yep.
But you
And then
can't compare the two.
like how did I get so close and miss by one? And it's like each time I take it though, I'm confident. So I'm just like, now the fourth time, I'm just like the confidence kind of shot. It's like, okay, do I really got this?
I mean, you can quote me on everything that I love. If you walk into the exam and do not second guess yourself, you do not add to the questions, you are going to pass this thing.
Okay. Okay.
Because if you were one less second guess away, you were one less adding to the question away from being on the other side and us not having this conversation.
That's true. That's true.
So when you're practicing it, because a lot of people are probably listening to this and saying, Phil, it's awesome that you're talking like this, but what do I actually do to combat second guessing? It's when you have the urge to second guess, going with the answer that you think it is, allowing to see if you got it correct or incorrect, and then adjusting from there. Because if you answer a question that with the answer that you think it is, you can learn from it if you got the wrong answer. However, if you read the question, pick an answer that you second guessed and wasn't originally your answer, you can't really teach yourself how to not second guess besides having repetitions of not second guessing and getting positive results.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just going to keep pushing. I'm going to try to stay more positive. I think what I'm going to do this time, since it's starting to get close, is do sticky notes on my mirror every morning with positive sayings to kind of keep me motivated.
Awesome. And just keep building yourself up. Forget those previous exam attempts besides telling yourself I was close and I'm going to walk into this next exam and slap it right across the face because I'm mad. I'm mad that I'm not where I want to be based on it telling me all of these negative things now. And that's where you're going to be like, you disrespected me. I'm going to disrespect you now because I'm going to get where I need to be and you're holding me back.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Phil. Thank you.
It is my pleasure to be able to help. And if you need anything, just let me know. Hello, everyone. My name is Dominic Perry, and I'm here to share my experience studying for and taking the exam. I utilized Phil's study groups in one-day course and passed on my first attempt. I took my test in Las Vegas, Nevada.
How you doing, Phil?
I'm doing as good as I can. So tell them a little bit about your journey with me.
Okay, so I found you on YouTube. A friend actually recommended your study groups. She also passed on the first attempt, and she told me to check you out on YouTube. So I checked you out on YouTube, and then I saw that you provide or you offer study groups. So one thing led to another, and I just started to use those study groups, as many as I could, with the time that I had before the exam. And I really liked them. I really enjoyed them. I like how they were broken down into sections. They were kind of like small study groups that I could digest better instead of just opening one book and trying to get all that information out of that book. The study groups helped me because they were just more organized for me. And then I also saw the one-day study group, and I utilized that as well. That was great. And yeah, I mean, basically what I did was I listened to them. I found out that I'm an audio learner. So I listened to them on my walks as I was working out, and it just worked for me. I listened to them at night. And that's what I used to study for the exam, basically, was just those things.
And when you walked into the exam, how did you wire yourself to say everything that Phil provided me was going to help me pass? And how did you push past the doubt when you had it during the exam?
Okay, so as far as doubt, I gotta say, I felt pretty confident. This was my first attempt. So I wasn't exactly sure what to expect, although I did take the ASWB practice exam. So I kind of knew at least what it was going to look like visually. So that helped me. That helped my nerves because I kind of knew how to navigate the system since it was the same exact system. It was one less thing I had to worry about. I knew the questions weren't going to be the same. I did pass the ASWB practice exam. So that helped. But I knew it says when you take that exam, this isn't an indication of you passing the real exam. So that helped me out a lot. What else helped? Just confident in how much I studied and how much I really knew and understood. I think just helped me go in there and attack it the best way I could.
And what did it feel like to realize, yo, I'm an auditory learner, and then have materials that made sense to you and made you feel confident? Like, what was that experience like?
Well, it was a relieving experience. I don't know, when you hear of an exam that's 170 questions, it's this big exam. You make this exam so big in your mind, and when you find something, I was very blessed and fortunate to find your study groups. And when you find that thing that works, it's kind of like a key in a sense where, okay, I found the right path. Now I'm just going to go down this path. I'm going to trust in myself. I mean, I've earned my master's degree. I mean, I know a lot. I have the ability to do this. So just trust in myself, give it my all, whatever that looks like, and go in and take it. And if I pass it, I pass it. If I don't, I'm going to try again. I'm going to do the same thing for the most part. So it was a great experience. It just felt really good to know that I have the information available. It's all organized for me, thanks to you. And if I want to pass it, I'll do everything I can too. And I'll sit down and I'll listen to your groups and I'll do my best. That's all I can do. So it felt good.
And if you were talking to somebody that was like, yo, I'm not really sure I could pass this thing. I know you did it on the first time. I heard you guys are kind of like unicorns. What would you say to them to build their confidence up?
Well, I would tell them that I'm not, I don't think of myself as smarter than anyone else. I really don't. It's just really what it is just the focus, really. It's just the determination, I think. It's not making the test bigger than it is. I know it's a big deal. I mean, I get that. It's a big deal to me too. It's a big deal for everyone, but it's just a test. And I've come so far, or you've come so far to be able to even go in that room and test. The things that you got to do to get there is so much. So don't let the anxiety of not passing or failing and then being afraid to pass again stop you from your goal or your dreams. You've come so far to let the anxiety or the lack of confidence stop you now would just be very unfortunate. So I guess just to stay focused on the goal. What do I want to do in life? Why did I even start this career? Okay, I got to pass this test. All right, I'm going to pass this test. Whatever I got to do, however many times I got to take it, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
So kind of having realistic expectations and being patient and having grace for yourself is important to being able to walk in and pass the test.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If I didn't pass it, it wasn't the end of the world. There are far more important things in life. This is important, but it's just not making it bigger than what it really is, I think helped me the most.
Okay. Well, that's awesome, and as I was working, like indirectly working with you through that, I was like, man, this is as positive as they can get. You're like, you were excited to study, and that is not a perspective you often see when this comes to the exam, because most times that people are, when they're studying, they're like, oh my God, I got to do it again.
Yeah.
So what allowed for you to be able to maintain that sense of calm, excitement, and just trust in somebody that you didn't even know?
Yeah. Well, it's pretty obvious that you know what you're talking about, in my opinion. And I love how you break things down. The way that you break down questions is so key for me, at least, and I'm sure it is for everyone else. But yeah, just to as far as staying calm and staying positive, just being able to um, break down questions, take it one study group at a time. I didn't move on to another study group until I passed the practice questions, and I understood. To be honest, when I didn't get a question right, I got more excited because I was like, all right, here's an opportunity for me to learn something, right? And that's when I knew I grew the most. So when I didn't get a question right, I got excited. I was like, all right, now, why didn't I get it right? Do I understand why I didn't get it right? I do. That's even better now than getting it right the first time. So I don't know. I just had that mindset of just growing in that sense. Just, I don't know. I was just really focused on the task at hand. And one thing that I can say really helped me was when I was doing your study groups, say it was on the personality disorders, and we were talking about, say, avoidant personality disorder or paranoid personality disorder versus antisocial personality disorder, and how they're similar, but also how are they different. I would take maybe another 15, 20 minutes and dig a little bit deeper if I didn't understand it completely. So I would go on, do a simple Google search or open up my DSM-5 and really understand the difference between the two, how I see it, and until I felt confident. And then press play again on your study group and go forward. I didn't just stick to your study group. If I had to go a little bit deeper, then I did go a little bit deeper. And that, I think, made the difference, really. That made so much difference as far as my confidence going into the test. I don't know if that made sense. I said a lot there.
Yeah, no, it does. You found what worked for you and you didn't beat yourself up when you didn't know it.
Yeah.
You got curious. You got like open to that new knowledge and then found what worked for you and not just settled with it. It was like, yep, I don't know it. That's fine. I'm just going to throttle down. It's like, no, I want to feel okay with this. Found what made you feel okay and then kept going with it.
Right. Exactly.
Is there any other advice that you would give somebody getting ready to walk into the exam, either for the first time or getting ready to take it after they have failed it?
I do recommend, if you can, if you have the time and you can take the ASWB practice exam. I think that's a good idea in the sense that, see, I'm all about calming down. I like to stay even keel. So I do everything I can to stay even keel. So if it'll help me calm my nerves, knowing that when I sit down in front of that computer, I'll know I've already seen the system before. I already know how to navigate it. As little as that is, it carries a lot for me in the sense to where now I can focus more on the task at hand. So I would recommend doing that. I would also be prepared that, like, when I went in, I didn't know I was going to have to wear a mask the entire time. And I know that's not a big deal, but for me, it was something that was unexpected. And I kind of got a little nervous because I never took a test for 3 or 4 hours with the mask on. And you're already kind of nervous, so I was starting to hyperventilate a little bit. Now I can't breathe, but I just kind of, I just calmed myself and just breathe as best as I could, and just know that there might be something that happens that you're not expecting. That's okay. Push through it. I recommend, like you said on your 1-day course, to maybe drive down to the testing center and go the route that you're going to take. I did that as well. That's a good idea. I even went into the building. I walked all the way up to the door. I even went in and talked to the people that were there. and asked them how it was going to go that day. I showed up early as they recommend anyway, but just anything you can do to try to calm yourself, I think helps, because what that does is it just allows you to focus on the task at hand. I mean, it's already nerve-wracking as it is. If you could just focus, I think it helps you so much more, your chances of passing, because like I said, to get there, to sit down in that chair anyway, you have to know so much. So you can pass it. It's just you get stuck in your head and you get nervous and you make this test bigger than what it really needs to be, and then you end up, getting in your own way. So anything you can do to help with the nerves, be prepared as much as possible, dig a little deeper on certain things that you don't understand. I think that goes a long way. It did for me, at least.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you being willing to come back and share your experience from the bottom of my heart. It means
Yeah.
a lot to me, and all the support that you showed me throughout your process.
Yeah, I'm honored. I appreciate everything you did for me, and anything you need, just let me know.
Yeah, likewise, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, awesome.